Hi everyone. Hello. Slightly new setup because I'm just sitting at my desk and this is going to be super casual. I was thinking of, I want to make a video about what are my favorite books for this half of the year, and I started to open up Storygraph so that I could start making that list. And then I thought, why not just do a kind of live reaction going through all of the books that I've read this year and see what I like, because whenever I make lists, I get nervous, I take things off, I put things on. I'm trying to be true to myself with this list, so I'm giving you some of my unfiltered reactions, let's say. And so just to start things off, I use Storygraph. This is not sponsored. A lot of people ask for my Goodreads. Storygraph is similar to Goodreads. It's a great way to mark everything that you're reading. They have really cool, a lot of people know this, but just in case you don't, they have really cool statistics. So once you mark like what you've read, it breaks things down by moods, by pace or length of book, like what genres you're reading the most of, what authors. It tracks number of pages. It's really cool. So I highly recommend it. You can also use it to write reviews. I just don't, because I can barely put a review into words on camera. I cannot put them into words in text. So yeah, I use Storygraph, and I'm going to go through everything that I read in 2023, starting in January. Shall we begin? And I always link it down below as well, my Storygraph. So I think you can follow me on there. I don't really know how it works. I literally only use it to track things, but I know it can do so much more. They also just added a feature of not only tracking pages read, but minutes listened if you're an audiobook girly. It's just really cool. It's a really great service. So I'm going to go through my list of books that I read in 2023. Let's see. January. What are my faves? I read Legends and Lattes. Legends and Lattes was really cute. It was so low stakes. It's a Hallmark movie, is what it is. Legends and Lattes is a Hallmark movie. And it was cute. It got the job done. What else did I read? I reread This Is How You Lose the Time War, which is a forever favorite. It randomly got re-hyped. There was some big thing on Twitter where somebody was like, don't look it up, just read it, and all these people bought it, and it like went back onto the bestseller list. It's worth it. This Is How You Lose the Time War. Let me tell you what these books are about. So Legends and Lattes is about what are you, an orc? Yeah, an orc that used to be an assassin but has retired and moves to a small town to open a coffee shop, and it's just about that journey. This Is How You Lose the Time War is about two spies or agents working for two different agencies that can time travel and use their ability to time travel to change the course of events in the world. And they're constantly, obviously, changing it for different reasons, so they're enemies, but they somehow start to write letters to each other, sort of at first taunting each other because they're rivals, but then it becomes something different, and it's literally just told through letters. So the world building is a little bit abstract, but it's just really, really beautiful. I really loved it. So This Is How You Lose the Time War is a forever favorite. What else did I read? God, January was the month that I read Zodiac Academy. Oh, okay. So January 20th, I read Hellbent. I just read One for My Enemy by Olivia Blake. And that gave me not similar vibes, but there was just a certain darkness and edginess to it that I felt like Hellbent kind of touched on. I loved this. I also think that I was reading it during winter, so it was just like the perfect, I was just cozy and cold and clinging to this story for dear life. I reread Ninth House, and then I read Hellbent, and I was so sad to leave the world. But the way that it ends, it can be done, but I think Lee has said that she's going to continue it. So I'm actually happy with that. I'm excited to see how else she could expand this world, but I really loved Hellbent. Oh my gosh, January was a hit. January, I also read Mysteries of Thorn Manor, which is a teeny tiny novella based off of Sorcery of Thorns, which is one of my favorite books of all time by Margaret Rogerson. I can't tell you what it's about because it would spoil Sorcery of Thorns, but it's like a Christmas special. It was fine. I didn't love it, but it was nice to revisit those characters. And then my last book of January, I read Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. This was an unexpected favorite. It took me a little bit to get into. I think maybe it was in the middle. I remember there being one part where I was kind of bored, but the characters are so cute. It's very Howl's Moving Castle coded. I really enjoyed it. I can't wait for the next one. I don't know. I think that should be coming out next year. But yeah, Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies follows a woman who is making an encyclopedia of fairies, and she needs to go to this one particular very teeny tiny remote island, I think like off of Norway or something, to study a particular kind of fairy or something. This is me going off of my memories from January. I haven't looked any of these books up, so please applaud me for how much I'm remembering. And she gets into a little bit of trouble, and she has her co-worker that comes to help her, and he is just magnificent. And I can't tell you much more than that, but it was very great. It was very refreshing. I really liked it. So Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, and also the cover is just so cool. February, after spending January rereading the first two books, we saw the conclusion of the Last Hours trilogy, Shadowhunters. I read Chain of Thorns. I can't say that this is a favorite book because the book did have a lot of letdowns, I will say, but just the action of rereading that trilogy. Again, it was winter. I was just cold and staying in bed all the time and listening. I normally don't listen to music, but I was listening to this Dark Academia podcast while I was reading it. It was just the vibe, and I was so happy to be in that world. And those books are so long, so I was just in it for a long time, and I loved it. Was just so immersive, and I enjoyed that. So Chain of Thorns itself isn't my favorite book of the year, but the experience of re-entering that world and being completely absorbed by a world was one of my favorite experiences for sure. After that, this one is one that I actually want to return to because I know that they've written a lot more, but I read Master of Jinn. This was very surprising and different and just a good time. It was like this adult, it's not an urban fantasy. It takes place in like a alternative Egypt. Oh my God, I don't actually remember anything about this. I just remember that there's like a badass female detective, and she has some like secret assassin girlfriend, and then she gets this do-gooder, funny female sidekick. It's just like badass girl power solving a mystery. I'm pretty sure in Egypt. There's like Egyptian mythology going on. There's a crocodile god. I don't remember, but I do remember being really intrigued by it and really enjoying the writing style and the setting. So if you're looking for a new fantasy, Master of Jinn, this was published in 2021, but there are a lot of mini novellas preceding it that are very short that help feed into this first full-length book, but I didn't read those. I felt like there were hints to those novellas in the book, but I didn't feel like I missed anything, and I'm gonna go back and read those. So Master of Jinn, it's a good time. Oh my gosh, February, I finally did it, guys. I finished Harrow the Ninth and Nona the Ninth. I read Gideon the Ninth, I think autumn of last year, and I was obsessed. I loved it. I was obsessed. And then I tried to read Harrow the Ninth, and I was so lost in the sauce. I had no idea what was going on, and that seems like the general theme, and it actually is the point. I swear it makes sense, but it's one of those books that you just have to read it knowing that you're not understanding a damn thing, and then something happens and you're like, And you have to kind of go back and read it again. So it was just, I couldn't do it. End of the year last year, I was like, you know what, Harrow, I want to enjoy you so bad. I'm going to put you aside, let my brain mature a little bit. So I finally read it. Again, I had to push through it. I think it's a solid 70% of the book, I'm not going to lie, that you don't understand. And then something happens and you're like, oh, and then it makes sense. Nona, totally different book. Like Gideon, Harrow, and Nona feel like they are written by 3 different people. It is, but they're connected perfectly, and the characters stay true to themselves the whole time. It's funny. It's so funny. I just can't, like, Gideon especially was hilarious. Harrow was like darkly funny. Nona was funny, but I just felt uneasy, and that one was so action-packed, I felt. And then when Electo comes out, hopefully soon, I feel like that one's going to be also really, really funny, and I'm very excited. So, mainly just try to read Gideon. If you haven't read Gideon the Ninth, please read Gideon the Ninth. It's also a book that you kind of don't understand what's going on, and that's okay. Harrow, very difficult to understand. Nona's much more straightforward, but I'm so glad that I pushed myself and finished those because it was so good. Tamsin is the author's name. Obsessed with her. I'm obsessed with her. Now we're in March. I feel like I had a really good start to the year. I had a lot of books that I really loved. In March, I read The Last Tale of the Flower Bride. Just a delicious little dark fantasy. So good. Very like Virgin Suicides. The girls are just girlin'. They're these mysterious, strange young girls, and I thought it was just really good. I also read it while I was in Prague, so I felt like I was surrounded by a dark fairy tale and reading it, so it was just vibes upon vibes upon vibes. I highly recommend The Last Tale of the Flower Bride. I'm trying, there are some books that like I liked, but I don't want to talk about them unless I really liked them, so I'm scrolling through so many good ones. You can watch my monthly reading wrap-ups. I talk about every book that I've ever read, so if you have a lot of time on your hands, you can go through. Man, April was dry. I did not like any books in April. I did enjoy Bandit Queens. Bandit Queens I read at the end of April. It's about a woman who everyone thinks that she killed her husband, and so she just lives this kind of quiet life. She's like the village pariah. Then one day a woman knocks on her door and is like, hey, you've done it before. Can you help me kill my husband? And it's so darkly funny. It takes place in India, and in this particular village, there's like a loan group. Like if you want to get a loan, you can't get it just yourself. You have to have like a group of people, and they loan it to the group. And so the only reason she has any friends at all or like any contact with the village is because she's in this loan group with these women, and one by one they all want to kill their husbands, and they enlist her help, and she didn't kill her husband. So she's just like, let's do it. And it's deeply darkly hilarious. There is definitely like domestic abuse involved, so it's, like I said, dark, but it's so funny. It's so funny. I read that book. Hold on, am I lying to myself? I did read that book. Okay. When books are like less than 100 pages, the plot slips straight out of my head. May, speaking of darkly funny books, I read Killers of a Certain Age. This one wasn't like the best book of the year, but it was such a fun time. It's about a group of women who are assassins. They're kind of like Charlie's Angels, think of, but they're now in their 60s and they're retiring. And when they go on their retirement cruise, suddenly they realize that they're being tailed and someone is out to kill them. And so it becomes kind of their last hurrah. They're gonna go out guns blazing, and it's a pretty good time. Killers of a Certain Age, a lot of like middle-aged to older woman humor. Like they They talk about their aching joints a lot, and it's a good time. Ooh, and then I read Divine Rivals. This one, my friend Susan was visiting, and she is my little book fairy, and she gave me this. I don't know how she packs. How do you pack, Susan? What? So anyway, she gave me like this stack of books, and she specifically warned me. I still haven't read it, but she gave me 6 Crimson Cranes, and she hands it to me, and she's like, just so you, like, I'm giving this to you now because the next book in the series is coming out soon, so you don't have to wait, because she knows I don't like unfinished things. She warns me about that, but she didn't warn me about Divine Rivals. So I read it, ate it up in one sitting, and then we're getting closer and closer to the end of the book, and I'm like, this isn't wrapping up. And yeah, it's at least a duology. It is an unfinished series. Divine Rivals it takes place not in our world, but it gave off very much like World War II kind of vibes. Our main character is a girl whose brother has gone off to war. It's based on like gods. Like there are all of these gods and they're at war. It doesn't really feel like that. I think the second book is going to dive further into like gods and mythology, but the first book, like I said, it very much just felt like, think of a World War II kind of romance, okay? Her brother is off at war, and she is a journalist, and she's an intern, and her and another boy are fighting for one spot, working full-time for the newspaper. So this internship is kind of like their competition, right? And she also happens to have a mysterious cabinet that when she puts letters into it, the letters disappear, and she believes that she's sending them to her brother, but actually someone else is getting them, and someone else starts to write back. And it becomes this romance, but there's also war tearing apart her world, and it's cute. I think if you like love letters, and if you like, it's not Grumpy and Sunshine, but it's definitely like one particular piece of the partnership is like a total simp, and I loved that. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. Looking back, it wasn't the best in terms of, I thought, how the story unfolded, but the actual reading experience was very lovely and cute, and I'm excited for the next one. I think the next one's gonna be very different from the first book, but I liked it. So Divine Rivals, if you're going into it, because it says, I have it somewhere, on the cover, it says something about like gods and war and all this stuff. So it sounds very mythology based, but it's not. It's not. The second one will be, but don't go into it thinking like, ooh, I love reading about warring gods. Not quite. Ooh, okay, now we're going into June. I'm filming this on July 22nd, by the way. You're not gonna see this for like a month, because if you're watching this, I am in Europe right now. So I'm filming things ahead of time for you. So we're reaching the end, don't worry. After that, I read the Fireborn trilogy. I read Fourth Wing in May, and I liked it, whatever. I'm on neither end of the spectrum. Some people are obsessed, some people think it's so bad. For me, I was like, oh man, it passed the time, whatever, fine. But when I said that, a bunch of you guys commented saying that if I liked Fourth Wing, I liked the dragon vibes, I should read the Fireborn trilogy. And thank you. I enjoyed it very, very much. So it's a trilogy: Fireborn, Flamefall, and Fury Song. This one had a lot more political intrigue, a lot more action than Fourth Wing. I thought that the world building was a lot stronger as well, but it still had all of your dragon fighting and training and all that stuff. It follows a world in which there was a revolution, a very bloody revolution, in which the royal families, there were 3 that ruled together, the royal families were all either brutally killed, or some of them were able to escape to this like far off land, except for one boy who was spared, and he is our main character, and he is in the process of training to be I forget their official name, but like the official soldiers, the dragon flyers of the country, the kingdom. And this is the first group of dragon riders to exist after the revolution. So all of these kids were like itty bitty kids during the bloody revolution, and they have grown up training to become the new guards, let's say. There were a lot of characters. It switches POVs a lot, and the further you get into the story, the choppier it gets, the more POVs you get. So that's like kind of my only complaint, but it was just really good. I thought there is romance, but I don't think that the romance pushed anything else to the side. I think it was pretty equally balanced in terms of there is action, there is romance, and there is political intrigue. Yeah, I liked it. There were different kinds of dragons. It was just a good time. There were reluctant heroes. There was just interesting discussion about power and how it corrupts, and how even if you go into things with good intentions, that can change. I just really liked it. And the author was really nice, because I posted about it on Instagram and she reached out to say thank you, because I think after Fourth Wing and everybody, like the people who commented on my videos, people are promoting it more. And so it's actually picking up steam again. This came out in like 2021. Yeah, it's picking up steam again. And she like actively reaches out to people and is like, hey, thank you for spreading the word. I really appreciate it. So I love that. So yeah, if you ever commented telling me to read it, the author, through me, is giving you a shout out, because I would have never picked it up. I never even heard of it until you guys talked about it. So thank you always for giving me something good to read. Okay, we're almost done. A quick read. That's weird. It says that this is 300 pages long. I felt like this book was shorter. I lied to you in my June wrap up. Oops. I read Burial Rites, which I thought was more in the like 100 pages. Burial Rites is a true story, so I don't want to give too much away, but it's like, it's not a spoiler if it's a story that you can just Google on Wikipedia. But it takes place in Iceland. It follows a woman who is being accused of murder and is waiting for her death sentence, but because of how the laws worked in the 1800s in Iceland, she has to wait for word to come back from Denmark. It's a whole thing. Iceland didn't have prisons, so she just has to stay in this house with the family. And we get to know her. And is she a psychopath murderer that everyone thinks she is? Maybe not. I thought it was really good if you're interested. It's very sad, very slow. But if you're into... It was just like a feminine rage book. And I was very angry. Very angry reading it. We're nearing the end. We're catching up to present day. At the very end of June, the last day of June, I picked up Garden of the Cursed. This is by Katie Rosepool. I had never heard of it before. I had never heard of her before, even though she has a trilogy that's already out and finished. But Garden of the Cursed is her newest series, very much not finished. This is the first book of a series, and it just came out in June. So we're gonna wait a long time for this, but this was really cute. I think I mentioned this on Instagram, but the cover, I realize I can just edit it and show you what it looks like here, but I'll just hold it up. I think makes it look a lot more intense than it is. It definitely has like gangs and people die and it's scary, but at its core, it's actually very cute and funny. The characters are just laugh out loud funny. A lot of sarcasm. There's a lot of bite to what they say. And it's a lot of like garden parties. And it's got the fake dating trope. It's a lot more, I don't know, a lot more lighthearted than the cover makes it out to be. We follow a girl who is a curse breaker. And she gets hired by an old friend who is the heir to one of the 5 royal families in this kingdom. Her mother used to work for the royal families, and so our main girl actually grew up going to like royal school and hanging out with them. But when her mother mysteriously disappears, our main girl goes back to her life in the marshes, right? And like completely cuts off any contact with the royals. And so when this friend from her past rolls up and is like, hey girlie, I got a curse for you to break, it opens up a whole can of worms, and I had a really good time. I really enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to continuing the series. So that is Garden of the Cursed. And now for books that I really recently read. So these are fresh. In July, I read Into the Drowning Deep. Into the Drowning Deep is a horror sci-fi novel about mermaids. Very dark, very creepy. Should have been edited down a little bit. This is 440 pages. It got slow. It was just heavy. It had a lot of characters. We had a lot of different POVs, and it had a lot of science to it. So it was just kind of like a heavy text at some points. But it's about a entertainment company that has a TV channel, kind of like Discovery or Sci-Fi, and they make mockumentaries. And when they were making a mockumentary about mermaids, the ship that they sent out to film this mockumentary came back empty. No bodies were found, just blood. And while bodies didn't come back, some film footage did come back. And people are looking at the footage, seeing these mermaids attacking people, and they're like, wow, the special effects team was really working hard. They were filming and adding the special effects simultaneously. That's amazing. And so it becomes this whole conspiracy of like, was that footage real or was it just special effects? And we follow, I think it's like 7 years later, we follow a bunch of different people, but mainly the sister of one of the passengers of that mockumentary trip, who is a marine biologist, but she's obsessed with mermaids and finding out what really happened to her sister. So it's just creepy and dark, and I thought it was really good. I thought there was like the last third of the book was a little, it could have been sped up. Could have been sped up a lot, but I thought the very end was really good. So I recommend it, Into the Drowning Deep. Okay, and the last two, again, this is July 22nd. So between July 22nd and now, I might have read some really great books, but here we go. 4 days ago, I read One for My Enemy. This is by Olivia Blake. I did not like the Atlas 6. You can look at my October reading wrap up for, I think it was 2021, 2020. When did Atlas 6 come out? I didn't like the Atlas 6. I liked some of the writing style, but overall I just didn't like it and I didn't continue it. Alone with You in the Ether, I read it and I liked it but didn't love it. One for My Enemy hits. It was exactly, I think it's one of those books that it depends kind of on when you read it, like it just needs to kind of come to you at the right time. And I was just in the mood for this kind of book. It is inspired by Romeo and Juliet, takes place in modern New York City, where we have this kind of world of witches. We have two different witch families that deal with the underworld in terms of one does an illegal trade of magical beings and cursed objects, and the other family does like the drug trade, and they're constantly feuding. And when the feud reaches a certain point, everything starts to unravel. It's really good. It's written in a very specific way that I feel like some people will love it and some people will hate it. It's a very like tight story. It's so focused on the characters that the actual world on the outside isn't super developed, but for me that felt okay. It was one of those stories where, I mean, similar to Romeo and Juliet, as I was reading it, I was like, if you guys would just communicate, if everyone would just talk to each other and stop going behind everybody's backs and being all secretive, we could end a lot of this pain, right? But it wasn't annoying. I think that there are some books where you're like, okay, people just need to talk to each other. This one, it just felt soul crushing. But yeah, I really liked it. I deeply enjoyed it. So that was One for My Enemy. The ending, I was a little like, what's actually happening? Looking back, if I wanted to nitpick, I could nitpick. But right now, just reading it, I was, if you guys follow my Instagram, you guys know, I was affected. One for My Enemy. Highly recommend. And the last book, what a weird book to end on. The last book to talk about, I read this 2 days ago, is The Big Swiss. Oh, it's just Big Swiss, excuse me. Big Swiss. This was pretty short. It says it's 325 pages. It felt shorter to me. Big Swiss is another darkly funny book. It is not for everyone, but it is about a woman in her mid-40s. She moves to a small town in, I think it's like the Hudson River Valley, maybe. She is a transcriber for the local sex and relationship therapist that everyone in the town seems to go to. So he records his sessions, sends her the tape, and she writes them down, right? They're anonymous, but the town is small enough that she can recognize everybody's voices. So she knows everybody's business. And she becomes obsessed with this one particular person who goes to the therapist. And she calls her Big Swiss because she's from Switzerland and she sounds tall or something like that. I don't know, but she's Big Swiss. And when they meet in person, things just go haywire from there. It is, like I said, darkly funny. Every single character is extremely flawed. I was laughing out loud. There are transcripts from the therapy sessions. It's just bonkers. It was just a book that I was sitting in a cafe, shoulders shaking, trying not to laugh out loud. I was literally reading it like with my hand over my mouth, trying to stop myself from cackling. It was a good time. I went into it knowing absolutely nothing, and as I was reading it, I was like, wait, what? Very, very funny. I thought it was a really good time. So those are the books that got me through the beginning part of the year. I am very excited for the end of the year. So many books that I'm excited for are coming out in September, in October. Autumn is always just like a really good time for me for when books come out. So I'm looking forward to the end of the year and August, as you're maybe currently watching this. I'm going to be traveling a lot, so I'm not sure how much I'm going to read, but September and onward, I'm excited. So I hope that you enjoyed this very casual scroll through of my story graph. I hope you guys are doing well, and I will see you in September. I will be home by then. And if you are interested in my travels, my main channel, Caricakes, I'm going to Iceland, and then I'm going all through the English countryside. So if you want to see some of that, it should be up very soon. I'm going to try and edit quickly. So I'm going to leave you here. Let me know what your top reads were for the year. You guys have sent me many that became my faves. So keep it up. And yeah, I hope you guys are having luck. I'm kind of in a weird, other than One for My Enemy and Big Swiss, I've been having kind of a bad reading time recently. So I hope you aren't. I hope you are getting out of any kind of slump. And let me know your thoughts on the books I talked about. Okay, I'm gonna go edit this up and catch you later, okay? Today's Saturday, so happy Saturday. Bye!